Welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun in Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how fantastic the whole entire off-road industry is, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tyler, and joining me for another episode of the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast, this is either episode 456 or 458.
No,
446 or 448.
Yes.
There we go. We're not sure yet. We don't know what life is, but I have a guy with me here who also does not know what life is. And his name is Jimmy Jett. Jimmy, how are you, man?
I am good. Thanks for asking. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah. We're just figuring stuff out. We talked a little bit about it last episode, and we don't know where things are.
We're not sure where things lie. A good thing we interviewed somebody that has a good grasp on the off-roading community.
Doesn't he ever? Oh my God. Yeah. Phenomenal interview we have for you guys today with a really cool dude. If you've looked at the title of the episode, you know who it is. You probably have listened to a lot of his podcasts already. Super knowledgeable. But before we get over to say hi to Rich, we need to tell you guys, remind you about a couple things. We're going to make it super quick because Rich loves to talk. And he has some really cool stories for everybody. So we have, let's see, Patreon is closed.
Patreon's closed.
iRate 4x4 gift box tier is open for today.
Well, depending on when this episode comes out.
Is this 446, 448?
Yeah.
It could already be closed.
If it's 446, you got like a day one day to get into the gift box tier. If it's 448, then it's closed.
Yeah.
Also, if it's 446, we got one more day to get into the giveaway tier, which is for 2 gift boxes and 2 massive or 1 each massive bottle of proof syrups. If it's 448, we have a good giveaway from Morphlate.
Yay. Just covering all our bases here.
Yeah, we'll just cover it.
There we go.
And then in December,
in case this ends up being episode 462,
you get zip.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, we got a bunch of stuff going on. We're at the end of the month here, so you guys should know by now. You've been listening all month long, right? About what's been going on this month as gift box month. So you need to make sure you're signed up, unless we're already in November now. So, in which case, it's Jim's month,
and it's closed.
So yeah,
great intro.
This is gonna be awesome. Are you going to edit this?
Oh, no.
Perfect.
Let's just move on to Rich.
All right. So, sounds good. We are professionals here. We know how to podcast.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know if we know how to podcast anymore. Yeah, that's all. We're going to keep this short and sweet. And hopefully you guys are still with us. You didn't just turn it off now. So we have Big Rich here, Mr. Rich Klein, who has a very long and colorful career and lifestyle and passion for the off-road industry. He's been around doing this stuff for a very long time, and he has a lot of cool stories to tell about it, a lot of really good experiences in the off-road industry. He's gotten to meet a lot of really cool people, and he's done some really neat things in terms of building some of the iconic events that we have in the off-road industry, which is pretty cool. So being able to get the opportunity to sit down and talk with Rich was a lot of fun. We enjoyed it, and we just barely scratched the surface of what Rich has done in this industry. So we talk a little bit about it at the end of the episode, but we're going to sit back down with him. I think we'll probably end up having him back on a few times to talk about different aspects of the off-road industry, whether it's W.E.Rocks, whether it's trail advocacy and some of the fights that he's been through, whether it's CalRocks, whether it's what Little Rich has been up to, and kind of how the apple has not fallen far from the tree, to the Off-Road Hall of Fame, 4Low Magazine. There's so much that Rich is involved with. I thought that I involved myself with too much stuff or a lot of things in the off-road industry. And Rich definitely has me beat easy.
Well, he does live pretty much on the road. I think he states in his podcast that he conversations with Big Rich where he's just always traveling. He's always moving around, and that's because he just does so much stuff for this community. And it was definitely a pleasure to be able to sit down and talk with him today.
Absolutely. So grab your favorite drinks. We're going to break into this pumpkin spice old fashioned before anybody notices, and we'll enjoy a drink with Rich here, and hopefully you guys too. So we'll be right on back with a conversation with Big Rich.
Are you looking for superior suspension for your Toyota off-road vehicle? At 4 Wheel Underground, we take every effort to engineer tight tolerances and proper material thicknesses in order to achieve a durable suspension with bitchin' fitment. Check out our quality kits with USA manufacturing at 4wheelunderground.com.
Oh, welcome back, ladies, gentle ladies, all the off-roaders out there. We have a very special gentleman here in the virtual studio today. And I was thinking about it. Are you back in Placerville?
Yes, absolutely back in Placerville. And special gentleman, those two terms are used very loosely.
Yes. Yeah, I was just talking with Jimmy about that as we were out at lunch, and Jimmy's like, why aren't we doing this in person with them? And I was like, oh, yeah, we failed on that one. But yeah, we have Big Rich Klein here from a popular off-road podcast and a lot of other really cool stuff in the off-road industry. Podcast is obviously Conversations with Big Rich. I know that a lot of our listeners listen to you over there, Rich. Welcome to the show. And how's everything going today, man?
It's going really good. I'm just got done with the Rebel Rally, staffing the Rebel Rally for the 8th year. And it's for us, it's 14 days away from home, concentrating on rally stuff. And it's a little decompression when you burst that bubble and get out of it and get back to mainstream. And because we're way up from everything for 14 days, basically. So it's a day of rest and relaxation, you might say.
Yeah, day of rest and relaxation, and then you get us thrown into your life.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, conversation's easy.
Nice. How was the Rebel Rally this year?
It was phenomenal. I've put on a lot of events in my 24 years as an event promoter. Everything from off-road racing to rock racing to rock crawling to we did a series of not foot races, but like walk-in runs they were done as a charity fundraiser. Okay. And just other things that I've done in life and working for other events. And I'd say the Rebel is probably the most special event and my favorite event of all time.
Wow, that's saying something coming from a guy who, like you said, has done a lot of different events and seen a lot of the off-road industry and outdoor recreation industry in general. That's pretty cool. What makes the Rebel Rally so special?
I think it's not only the style, but the event gives women a chance to do something without having the men in their life or other men to diminish what they're doing. No mansplaining happens for 12, 14 days. They're not overpowered by type A male personalities that have a tendency to shut down women. Not that I'm a drum beater for equal rights or women's rights or anything like that, but I see it in off-road over the years with our rock crawling series. Not so much. The guys really like to get their girlfriends and wives and daughters involved in it. But this is an event that is strictly women competing against women in a world where they're stepping into from their daily routine that is polar opposite. Yeah. There's even the women that are journalists and off-road racers that get involved with this event. It's something completely different for them. And the trials and tribulations they go through without doing the navigation part of it is extreme to begin with. I mean, everything's camping. The days start at 5 o'clock in the morning and typically don't end until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And then it's repeated again for 8 solid days of competition. Mm-hmm. And it pushes the ladies to their utmost. And I think that when the women step back into their normal lives, they have changed. Yeah. And hopefully their boyfriends and husbands don't diminish that change for them.
Yeah. Would you say that change is a lot more like self-confidence that they can do and accomplish stuff they put their minds to, or that they have a better skill set, a more of a skill sets now? What do you think that changes for them?
I think that it gives them a lot more confidence in life. Even the most confident women that I've met on the rally, which there has been many, I mean, very accomplished women, everything from aerospace engineers to women that run multi-million and billion-dollar companies that get out there and push themselves in an arena where they're not used to, walk away from it with knowing that they can do just about anything. And they can do anything that they put their mind to it. And I think that's the thing that I like to see.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Back when I was doing whitewater rafting, there was and part of what I did in college was experiential education. And so being able to educate people through experiences and pushing their limits teaches people a lot about themselves, about what they can do. I found that the best result that comes out of it all is self-empowerment. And they feel now empowered that they can trust their decisions that they're making throughout life now because they have that little bit more confidence. It's a really cool effect, experiential education, I think.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's cool.
Nothing like getting out there and doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. So the Rebel Rally, it worked like it's waypoints, right? And they have to get to different waypoints, and there's the score is based on how close you get to the waypoints within a time frame, or?
Yeah, there's 3 different types of checkpoints that the girls need to navigate to. And with navigation, there's no electronics being used. It's all done with protractors, rulers, map, and compass. There's nothing electronic about it except for the scoring. Yeah. And every morning they're given a list of anywhere from 20 to 28 waypoints, which are Latin longs. And then they have to plot those on either 50,000s or 100,000s maps and then get to those spots. The first one is green, and that's pretty easy to find. It's where it's manned by Rebel staff, which is what Shelly and I do. We man one of those green checkpoints. Nice. And then there's blues, which are a pole or a flag of some type as the identifier mark. And then there is black, which is there's no identifying mark in the terrain itself. So they're going out there and they're just navigating to a point that they have
calculated themselves.
Calculated. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, say we're out in Johnson Valley, you could be out in the middle of the lake bed and there might be a spot there it's targeted so that they have rings and the point values go by how close you are to that target.
Wow.
And then then they get penalized if they get a wide miss. So if they're outside of that ring, it's a penalty. If they're inside the ring, their point values go anywhere. I've seen them up to 8 and 10 points for those checkpoints. Wow. And so the whole idea is to grab as many checkpoints as they can. And the checkpoints are laid out typically in some kind of a route, so that it gets them from one location to the next.
Okay.
Whether it's base camp back to that base camp or base camp back to, or not back to, but to the next base camp.
Gotcha.
And it's quite interesting. Things that you find out that once you're lost, there's a tendency to go faster or keep moving. And one of the things that they try to teach in the classes of navigation is as soon as they're lost, stop.
Yeah. Figure stuff out.
Yeah. Figure out where you're at. Look at your maps. Try to look. Heading and distance don't lie. So plot your heading, verify your heading, look at the map and look for features because it's all topographical maps. So you can look at the features of the surrounding area and try to pick out where you're at. Of course, a place like Glamis, the sand dunes change.
Yeah.
You know,
moving mountains.
So when that map was printed, the sand dunes may be to the left and now they're to the right, but you're still going point to point.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I honestly would be screwed if I got put into that situation.
Yes, you would. Well, Tyler is the worst map person ever.
I'm terrible with directions. Like east and west don't even calculate in my head correctly sometimes.
I went through scouting, was an Eagle Scout, did orienteering and map and compass and working all those kind of things out when I was a kid. But I got out of scouting when I was like 14. 15 years old. And in fact, I think it was by that time I discovered girls and cars, and it was like, okay, scouts didn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
But I still felt I had that base knowledge. We took a class, one of the Rebel U classes, on navigation, and it was eye-opening. I realized that I had forgotten more than I'd probably learned, and that applying what we learned one day into the next day, going out and plotting our course and trying to find the locations, realized that I'm better at staffing the event than I would be involved inside of the event as a competitor. Luckily, the competition is only for women, so that I could never become a competitor anyway. I like being staff. I like being out there helping, and everybody that's involved in it, whether it's media, the safety, the mechanics, our course crew, the scoring crew, it really doesn't matter. Base camp crew. There's 127 volunteers or staff with 130 competitors, 65 teams, two people each, 130 competitors, 127 staff. Dang. So it's quite the production.
Yeah.
So when you're staffing a checkpoint like you, do they at least give you a map of where you need to be?
We have electronics.
Okay.
They are on
to cheat.
Yeah, we get to cheat. We have, I use my Lowrance so that I can always get back out of the area. I always keep track logs of where I've been with the Lowrance. I use the YB tracker that we use for scoring. We also use it for tracking the rest of the staff and that are on course, and the ladies that are on course, the teams, so that we know where they're at, what they're doing, and where they're going. We run our Starlink, so no matter where we're at, we have reception. Nice. And that we can use that tracking. We use a tablet to run that stuff. And then between that and the scoring, that's updated real time. So as soon as those girls click on a checkpoint, scoring gets it and it goes into the scoring calculator, and then it's put online. So we can tell when somebody has not been to where they need to be, or they are going in the wrong direction, how fast they're moving, when it last updated, all that kind of information. And one of our jobs is to sweep and make sure that all the ladies, all the teams get back to camp. Whether it's a transit day or a loop day, they get back to the right camp, and we don't leave them out there overnight unattended.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That sounds like a pretty fun volunteer job for a really cool event. We've gotten to talk with Amber Turner before about when her and Dolly went and ran the Rebel, and got to hear kind of their point of view and how much fun they had with it and how much they loved the event. So it's kind of fun to hear the inside view now of it.
Yeah. It's a great event. I mean, and while it may be fun, it's probably one of the most extreme things and toughest things that the ladies have done while they're having fun. I mean, and some of them may not be having as much fun during it, but after it's all done and over with and they get time to decompress at home, they may look back on it and go, wow, that was really great. It was fun. Maybe at the moment when you're lost, you're disorientated, you're tired, you're unsure of yourself. There's a point in every competition like this where you just don't know what the hell is happening.
Yeah, for sure.
But when it's all over and said and done with, I've only heard of a couple of women that have said they'll never go back. And I think that was just the preparation may not have been there, and the expectations were too high.
Yeah.
Everybody goes in there, I'm going to go win, just like any competition.
Yeah.
But if you're not completely prepared and know not only how to drive the vehicle in off-road situations, but also how to navigate, you're relying on somebody else if you're just the driver and you don't know how to navigate. And if there's a hiccup, that turns into something bad, at least mentally, when they do get lost or confused. And typically they get their way out of it. Sometimes we have to go help. I get a kick out of the guys that say, oh, it's a women's only event because they're afraid to have the men compete against them. This has nothing to do with physical attributes like swimming or tennis or bicycling or any of the things that is happening nowadays in sports, and women's sports being overrun by transgender males trying to compete in female sports, which I don't agree with. But this is all about technique and knowing how to play the game. And this is a game that these women play very well. Their analytical brains function as high as any males that I've ever met. Mm-hmm. And I think the men that say that they'd go out there and whoop on these women have no freaking idea of what they'd be getting themselves into.
Yeah, that and women typically work better as a team in those kinds of situations. I've found, again, back to rafting, we had trips where we would take out like a groups of firefighters and then that are all guys and the manly men kind of thing. And then a Girl Scout troop, and the Girl Scout troop would out paddle the firefighters any day because they knew how to work as a team and they were more likely to do it. So it's always funny to me when guys try and show how bullheaded they are. And I'm like, that doesn't work in all the situations, guys. You need to calm down there.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
Cool. You said you grew up doing Boy Scouts and you got your Eagle Scout. Yes. What was your Eagle Scout project? I know we have quite a few Eagle Scout listeners out there. So what was your Eagle Scout project?
I collected toys for children's hospital wards all through the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I grew up in San Bruno, California. Was in Troop 89 and then also in Troop 270 at one point. And that project was going around and collecting, doing a big toy drive. And cool. I think that when we ended up done, we had 3 U-Haul type trucks, the large ones full of toys to deliver to various children's wards.
Wow. That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So organization and event donations, huh? That's your forte?
I guess so. It's kind of been the thing of my life. What I've realized over the years is that I'm not very good at sitting behind a desk for very long. Mm-hmm. I'm not a very good corporate employee, you might say. Yeah. I've worked for large corporations. No, I've never held a job or of my own business or working for somebody else more than 5 years.
Wow.
Dang. And I'm 65 years old and I started working when I was like 13 or 14.
Wow.
And 5 years is like, I've got a lot of 5-year pins. Uh-huh. Got a lot of 1-year pins. And I got no 6-year pins except in rock crawling.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let's go to the rock crawling then. What do you mean by that comment?
In 1998, when competitive rock crawling first got started, organized. I mean, everybody that goes out wheeling with their friends, it's always like they hit a hard obstacle. Who can do it the best? There's always some competition there. But when competition started on an organized level, I volunteered for the ARCA events that Ranch Pratt was putting on. And I was the club president at the time in Cedar City, Utah, Color Country 4-Wheel Drive Club. Okay. And we were going to help host one of his events out at Three Peaks. So I went to a couple of events to see what they were like and right away got involved with the judging and helping whatever I could volunteer-wise. Mm-hmm. And then I knew after watching a couple of these events that I thought I could do it as well or better just because of the organizational skills that I thought I possessed. Okay. So when I moved back to California from Utah, I put on my first event, which was Cal Rock's event called Put Up or Shut Up at Lake Amador. Nice. In Amador County. And I learned right then that what I thought I knew and what I really knew were probably two different things. Okay. But with every event that I did over the last 24 years, I've always learned something. And I just keep adding that to my wheelhouse of knowledge and try to bring that to everything that I do.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about experience for sure.
Yes. Yeah. You can plan everything you want and figure out all contingencies that you think that you're going to come across. And then somebody's going to throw something in your lap that you're going to just say like, what the hell? And that's what happened the very first event. We were at Amador, we're doing tech, and the Amador County Sheriff's show up and write me and the property owner tickets and to give us notices to appear with a cease and desist order from the county.
Wow. For the event?
For the event.
Unpermitted or something? Or did they want to pull the permits all of a sudden? What?
Yeah, there was, when I first talked to the property owners, which were the lessees of Lake Amador and I guess it's the reservoir there, Lake Amador is actually a part of the reservoir systems that the Army Corps of Engineers built. So they have a lease on this property. And they're leased as a recreational area to do recreational things. They'd had boat races, they'd had concerts, they'd had fishing tournaments, they'd had all sorts of competitions. Well, I went in there and said, hey, so am I going to need county permits or nothing? Oh, we're already permitted for recreation. So, okay, great. So we put on this. Yeah. So 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, sheriffs show up, hand us these notices for being in court at 5 o'clock. Okay. Tech started at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm scrambling to try to find a lawyer. My good friend, Bob Rogie, he knew somebody. We called them. That lawyer said, yeah, let me get a civil engineer. They met us on site. They walked through everything that we had. They'd already pulled up what the county required for permits for the number of toilets per people that were expected to be there. All the different things, parking and sanitation and all the stuff that I'd already planned for.
Yeah.
But I never went through the county to permit because the property owner said, no, they're permitted.
Didn't have to. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So we go to court and long story short, we beat them. And the only thing I had to do was the permit process kicked in if you were going to have 1,000 people or more on site.
Okay.
So what we did is we agreed to limit it to 999 people on site.
Nice.
But that became a problem on Saturday morning when we had thousands of people drive up to the front gate and I had to shut it off at what I figured was 999 people.
Roughly yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And as people went out, I'd let people in. And we had a lot of people get speeding tickets because, of course, by then the county was pissed off. They called the highway patrol. They called surrounding counties and said, hey, if you get these four-wheel drive enthusiasts coming to this place that we didn't really want them to come to, and they're probably going to be speeding or, they're going to be God knows what. But a lot of people got speeding tickets on the way there or the way home.
A lot of mud flap tickets.
I know that the only ticket that they wrote, the sheriff showed up on site and they were doing head counts and they were walking around with some undercover people trying to buy weed. Okay. Because back then it was $100 ticket for a joint, right?
Okay.
They wrote one ticket because they were able to buy one joint. Somebody sold the undercover cops a joint. The guy got $100 ticket. And when they tried to, Amador County Sheriff's Department sent me a bill for $5,000 for police enforcement, law enforcement. And I'm like, I'm not paying this. I didn't agree to this. So then I fought him for the next 2.5 years. And I spent like $3,500 not to pay $5,000. But it was principle.
Yeah,
seriously.
You saved $1,500.
Exactly.
You're good.
Yeah, I saved $1,500 in the long run, not including all my gas going to Amador every time.
Jeez.
But, I learned. So now every time I go into a place or after that, it was, okay, what's the permitting process like for your county?
Yeah.
And the best one I ever heard was in Mason, Texas. I'm talking to this guy and in his office, and his name is Shane Chapman, and he's one of the property owners for K2, W.E.Rocks. Or back then it was just W.E.Rocks. Mm-hmm. And they had lease on a big piece of property there in central Texas where the hill country is. And we were going to do an event there. And I come to meet him and I said, okay, I need to know what's it like in your county for permits. And he goes, and this is a guy that's younger than me, right? And he looks at me and he goes, or about my age. And he goes, boy, let me tell you something. And I said, okay. And he goes,
brace yourself.
This is Texas. Because nobody tells me what I can do and what I can't do with my own property. And I said, yeah, but the county, and he goes, okay, here's the deal. the county isn't going to be a problem because I'm the county lawyer.
Oh, well, that makes things nice.
Yeah. And I said, okay. Shook hands and said, let's do this.
Wow.
And we still do it at their park, which is now K2. It's a new location, but we still do events there to this day.
Wow. So you were the original rock crawling competition in California, which started as W.E.Rocks then, right?
Yeah. I'm going to say it was a toss up on timing between Jeff Knowles, CRCA, the California Rock Crawlers Association, otherwise known as Rednecks on the Rocks. He had a ranch called Wooden Nickel down in Temecula, I think it was, that he put on events. A little bit different. It was more of a timed type. They set up cones to get through, but it was more of a timed event for rock crawling. Yeah, not the backup points and the hitting cones, 10 points, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There was more time penalties involved. And he may have done his events a little bit sooner than us with W.E.Rocks. But, for what I call the true competitive rock crawling trials type competition, I was the first one in California. That's correct.
That's pretty cool. So how many, now it's W.E.Rocks, right? Nationwide?
Correct. In 2005, we decided to change the name, and there was a thing going on in the rock crawling world at that time amongst the promoters where there was a promoter out there trying to buy out or to gather up all of the rock crawling associations so that there would only be one group in the United States.
Interesting.
And I didn't necessarily agree with their tactics. I didn't agree with the way they put on their events. I didn't agree with just about anything that they agreed or they thought was right. So I decided to keep separate where everybody else either folded or became part of them. And they were under the name at that point, United Rock Crawling and Off-Road Challenge or something, U-Rock.
Okay.
And this wasn't the original owner of U-Rock. This was people that had stepped into it. And while they were trying to gather us up as well, and we didn't agree. So we told them no. And they said, if you don't agree to come on board with us, whatever is going to happen whatever happens is going to happen. And
sounds like a threat.
I was going to say, it sounds a little threatening.
And anybody out there that knows me knows that I don't take threats kindly, and I'm ready for a fight anytime. So I got home from one of the meetings with them, and I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. So I started calling organizations or people that were putting on rock crawls or had contacted me about using the rules and stuff that we had written in other countries. And so we had Australia, Japan, Chile, Mexico, Canada, Russia. I called all those people, Norway or the Scandinavian countries that were doing like the Icelandic racing and that kind of stuff. I called those guys all up and said, okay, I want you to be part of our sanctioning body. I'll give you the chance to use the rules. I'll give you the chance to be organized along with us so that everything is being done the same way as far as competition rules, vehicle rules, and then maybe we can have a world championship at some point. And they all agreed. So while U-Rock was organizing the United States I stepped outside of the United States and said, okay, let's organize the world. So I became the world sanctioning body and in all the areas. And I just kind of said like, F you. And so there was some battles. Their lawyers got involved and tried to threaten me again. And so I just took their letter that the lawyer had sent me and posted it on Pirate. And of course, in the world of Pirate, if there is an organization or if there is something governmental or of authority out there,
trying to take over.
Yeah, it just firebombed on them. I mean, it kind of went nuclear, went the wrong way. And eventually I got a phone call one day it was Jeff Mello. And he goes, hey, Rich, you won. And I said, what do you mean, Jeff, I won? And I was driving back from an event after our first event of the season. And he goes, well, U-Rock just sent out a notice an email to everybody, all the competitors saying, hey, we're done. We're not going to, they'd already put on one event. They were not going to continue. The rest of the season was canceled. They were done.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, damn. Because it's easy. It's easy to, when you have competition, because you have to be better than your competition.
Yeah.
When there's no competition out there, now you have to be better than yourself.
That's true. That's a good way of putting it.
It's hard to look in that mirror and say, okay, this is where you failed.
Yeah.
So I always looked at it as what is the best for the sport, not necessarily best for me. I think that's where others made the mistake, is they were only in it for themselves.
Yeah. I know that egos and profits unfortunately get in the way of a lot of really good things. So it sounds like that may have been what happened, and people saw through it.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool. I love that you stated you try and do everything that's best for the sport rather than necessarily yourself. Do you think that's a big reason why you're now in the Motorsports Hall of Fame, or not in the necessarily the Hall, but you're on the board for the Hall of Fame?
I think that it's just the experience that I bring in competitive motorsports to the Hall, and a different view. The Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame is, or has primarily been built on desert racing. And
Baja stuff, Vora.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And short course racing, more of the off-road racing. When Rod Hall first redesigned, I mean, he took over from, he was handed by Ed Perlman a box and said, here's what I started with the Hall of Fame. You need to run this. And so Rod Hall took it and said, okay, now what am I going to do with this? And he had an idea and a vision, and he put that together. And back in like 2003, he had his first meeting, and everything kind of blew up from there. It was right after the Best in the Desert race, the Vegas to Reno. It finished in Reno or Dayton, but the meeting and everything and rewards and all that kind of stuff were in Reno. And this meeting I got invited to by Rod, and it was a brand new rock crawling promoter. I had just purchased Vora from Ed Robinson. So now as an off-road racing promoter as well, which was new and different. And
I never knew that you had purchased Vora.
Yeah, I had Vora for 4 years. And so
I never knew that.
Yes. So I go to this meeting, and I'm standing in this room with 25 or 30 guys. And I look around, and there's all the legends of off-road racing. I mean, the Parnelli Jones, the Bill Straw, it was the name of names in this meeting. And I was standing there with Jeff Cummins from BFG and with Walker Evans. And I'm like, man, I do not belong in this room. I'm the new guy. I've only been doing this for a couple of years. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. He looks at me and goes, Rich, how many guys here are in off-road racing? And I looked around and I said, well, I guess all of us. And then he goes, how many are here in rock crawling? And I look around and I said, well, you, me, and Jeff. Because Jeff was sponsoring W.E.Rocks at the time, or Cal Rocks at the time, and also because of my association with Vora, and Walker was running in our series. So it was the three of us. And I said, just the three of us. And he goes, that's why you're here.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then Rod asked me to be on the board of directors at that time. And it's one of the things that I regret most in my motorsports career is not jumping on board with it early. I didn't feel that I had the experience or the knowledge or that I belonged in that room with those people. And over the years, I've kind of kicked myself in my butt just for not doing it. And then I was asked if I would like to be on the board of directors, and knowing that there was only one other person in rock sports on that board of directors, which was Dave Cole from KOH, I agreed. And I thought that I could bring the four-wheel drive industry into the Hall of Fame. It was the off-road industry that was in the Hall of Fame, not so much the four-wheel drive industry that was in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So that's my goal, being in Ormhoff and then on the board of directors, is to bring more awareness in the four-wheel drive industry about the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame, which includes advocates, media, competitors, park owners, business owners, anybody and everybody, enthusiasts, can all end up being inducted into the Hall of Fame as an inductee. It's about the amount of time and the effort that you've put into your off-road life. And it's not a hobby for some of us. It's a lifestyle. And
I would say it's a lifestyle for a lot of us in the industry.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea is to bring that lifestyle that we know and bring it more recognition within the hall and in the off-road world. There's a lot more enthusiasts that are out there wheeling four-wheel drive in Jeeps or in Toyotas or whatever their four-wheel drive vehicle they choose than there are guys desert racing. I'd say it's on par with the motorcycle industry. There's a lot of people own motorcycles. A lot of people own Jeeps and pickup trucks and four-wheel drive vehicles. So the power of the people can do good things. And one of the things that the hall does is that we have every year we put out a donation to an off-road group or an organization that does things to keep the trails alive and open and keep our public lands public. Nice. And so the more members that we have the more funds we have to donate to do that. And public lands on the East Coast, east of the Mississippi, there are no public lands. Even east of the Rockies, there's very little public lands. Everything's privately held. Here in the West, we're really fortunate to have these lands that are public and that we can use. But over the last 10, 15 years, we've been under assault by the green industry, these lawyers that have found a way to pad their pocketbooks by keeping lawsuits open. Organizations like SUA and the Center for Biological Diversity and the Sierra Club.
CBD. Yep.
Yeah, they're not. It's not like there's hikers that are manning and running those organizations. Yeah, they may hike, but that's not their primary goal. Is to raise funds to close everything down. And
it's like the California Coastal Commission. Most of the board now is property development organizations.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want people using the beaches or the headlands because that's where they want to build houses.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like these organizations start out as a good thing, or at least in theory, a good thing. But we had a great interview with Ben Burr from Blue Ribbon Coalition recently while I was out at Trail Hero, and he was like, a lot of the agreements that we have with BLM, a lot of the organizations that are around started out good, but over time, people have learned how to gain control of them and weaponize them in order to meet their own agendas. And it seems like we're just seeing that left and right. And the off-road community is not, I think we're hitting a crux point here where the off-road community has to step up now. But in the past, haven't really stepped up to meet and fight that weaponization of these organizations.
I agree 100%. Like the Sierra Club, when it was first, started, it was not, John Muir was not about closing the lands down and keeping people off of it. He wanted it conserved for people to use. Mm-hmm. Was motorized recreation in his his plan at that point? No, because there was nothing like that going on.
Yeah. But I wonder if John Muir had a Jeep when he was doing all of his explorations. If he would have preferred it, right?
He'd used it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Backpacking is fun. It's great, but you can't do it forever. Like myself, I've got bad knees. I've thrashed my body over the years. I've probably done more backpacking than most of the people that belong to those organizations. I can't do it any longer. My dad wasn't able to do it. So the only way to get out there was to do it by Jeep or by some form of motorized vehicle. And we're using a small portion of the public lands. It's not a wholesale assault like they make it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just gotten ridiculous. And organizations like that, they're run by lawyers, and they're ambulance chasers. They're out there chasing the accidents to create more money growth in their own funds. That's it.
It's like stringers. Are you familiar with stringers?
No.
They're the people that are freelance videographers that go and chase the ambulances so that they get the best footage of the wrecks, of the fires, of the turmoil at nighttime while the news agencies are sleeping, and they sell all the footage to the news agencies in the morning for them to use and tell everybody what happened overnight time. And it's
okay. Yep.
Shit. Yeah. Those are stringers. They're going around and they profit off of the negativity and the chaos.
Right. Just like the paparazzi does with TMZ and other organizations. Try to get that stuff that people somehow in some way want to crave other people's misfortunes.
Misfortunes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame. We need to get rid of all that crap.
Yeah. Going back to the Motorsports Hall of Fame.
Sure.
How would one attempt to get somebody nominated to get entered into that Motorsports Hall of Fame?
We're in the process of changing our application period and application right now. It will be available. We'll have available the parameters for induction very shortly. I would say in the next month. In January, we will have the packets, I believe, available to send out to those that want to induct or to apply that application for somebody. The person themselves can't fill out the application. It's somebody's got to fill it out for them and be basically their sponsor. And it can be anybody. I know that Kurt Schneider has done that here in Northern California for a couple of different inductees. And it's a process of filling out the application, getting all the background on the person that you want to see inducted, and then goes through the induction process with a couple of meetings and a committee that we put together that's made up of past inductees, media, business owners, all sorts of different people that are on there. And then the voting process goes through. They go through the applications, and then each person goes through a series of votes. Each application does. And then when there's a majority agreement on somebody, that person will then be inducted. And it's kind of a tedious process, but it needs to be, because the off-road, any Hall of Fame has to have standards that are beyond just wins and losses. There's got to be something else involved in there. And whether it's how great the person is, what they've done for the community, besides just winning, are things that we look at. So you need to, anybody that wants to induct somebody, get that application, go online to ormhoff.org and do it. That's what I want to see. I want to see more of the 4x4 industry being inducted.
Yeah, I know that there's a big push, I think, coming up this year, and some big planning to try and get Marlon Chakowski in as an inductee. Is that still possible, or do inductees need to be alive in order to?
They do not need to be alive. It's somebody that's be like a legacy induction. Somebody from the family would probably come up and receive the award at the ceremony, which we have a big gala. This year was in September, but typically it's there over the weekend before Halloween at SEMA. We do it in Las Vegas. And it's easy for everybody that is going to SEMA to come in for a day or two early than it is to make arrangements to get to Vegas some other time in the year. Make 2 trips. It's easier to make 1 trip. And so we try to do that at that time of year. And we're going back to that next year. But it's really important to get people in, whether they're still alive or not, and to get them recognized, because there's just a huge wealth of outstanding people that are in the 4x4 industry, or the 4x4 side of the off-road industry, that need to be recognized. And I think that anybody that has somebody in mind that thinks they should be in the hall, again, go to ormhoff.org, or even drop me an email or text message, a Facebook message. It's easy to contact me, and I'll help them with what I can to help with the process.
Cool. We'll definitely keep that in mind. I wanted to shift gears a little bit here because you mentioned it's a lot of really cool, outstanding people in the off-road community. Jimmy and I would both totally agree with that. We keep joking how the off-road industry is like one of the biggest small industries, the smallest big industries you could ever be in and be a part of. And you get this really fun and cool opportunity to interview a bunch of these really awesome people in the off-road industry over on your podcast, Conversations with Big Rich. How did you get into podcasting and go from event promotions and event stuff to sitting down and getting to interview and tell all these people's really cool stories to everybody?
It all happened because of COVID.
Okay.
My wife, Shelly, has been on me for years now to tell the story, not just my story, but everybody else that I know that has a story in off-road. And most of us, like we talked about earlier, this is a lifestyle. It's not a hobby or just a business. It's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And there's these stories to be told, and I don't know. It just seemed like something that was just going to be a pain in the ass to me. So I said, I kept putting it off. COVID hit. We're sitting in Central Texas at our hotel in Mason, Texas, and we can't put on our event for at least a month. Or what did they tell us? 2 weeks. We didn't know what the schedule was going to be like. We had no place else to go. We were already in Texas getting ready to put on our event. So our hotel all of a sudden went from all of our reservations canceled because nobody could travel. So we were sitting in our empty 4-room hotel trying to figure out what to do. And Shelly keeps herself busy by having all sorts of different projects. A lot of them are work related. Some of them are just personal things like artwork and stuff like that, different things that she's into, writing and everything. She's just so multi-talented. It's unbelievable. And the drive she has to just keep going on things and learning. And she said, hey, you got to do this podcast. You got to do a podcast. Tell these people's story. And I knew that there was already four-wheel drives and off-road podcasts out there. And I just thought it's just going to be more noise. Sitting there after, a week or two with absolutely freaking nothing to do, because this little town that we're in of 2,500 people, the county's only like 3,000 people or something. And the town of Mason is like 1,500 or 1,200. It's like, okay, what are we going to do? What do I get? What can I do besides just drive around? So I said, okay, let's talk about this podcasting thing. And so we looked into it. I said, okay, let's just see how this is going to go first. So I opened my laptop, I downloaded Zoom, and I said, okay, let's call some people, or let's do one first, her interviewing me. And so I tried to tell my story, and then I called some close friends like Dustin Webster and Lance Clifford and my son and some others, Bender. And I just started talking to these guys about their life. Mm-hmm. And what I found out was that all these guys wanted to tell their story, or most everybody wanted to tell a story. I think I've done 184, 185 now over the last 3.5, almost 4 years. 4 years in March, I think it'll be. That there's only been like 3 people that said, no, I'm out of that world now. I don't want to tell the story. I'm done. I don't want to be public. I just want to be, left alone. Okay, fine. I started doing the podcast, reaching out to people that I knew, and then people would make recommendations. People we'd talk about other people during their interview. And so I just started making a list, and the list has never gone below like 350 people. Even though I've done 140 or 180 some interviews right now, it's never gone below 350 people.
Wow.
I don't think the list will ever go below 350 people.
It'll always be growing.
Yeah, it's always be growing. It amazes me. I'll get messages from people saying, hey, I'd like to be on your podcast. I think I got a story to tell. And so it's always fun to do that. I love getting the feedback from the listeners that says, boy, I've known this guy for 25 years and I learned so much about him or her listening to the podcast that I can't wait till we sit down next time around the campfire. And that to me is what this is all about. It's telling the stories, their background, letting people know who these people are in this industry. Mm-hmm. And again, these are people that a lot of them are in the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. A lot of them have the potential to be in the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. A lot of them, I think, should be in the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. And I can't wait until those interviews that I've done get into the hall so that I'm able to change that header around them to say Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame inductee so-and-so. Like I was able to do for Lance or Brad Lovell or Dean Bullock, some of the people that I've interviewed that now are in the hall. And now the hall, before I became a board member, I was asked to start recording interviews with the inductees, with the past inductees.
I was just going to bring that up, and I'm glad you brought it up too, because I heard it on one of your episodes, but the one that really I remember well is with Judy Smith, the grand old dame,
right?
Where she came from, like, I think you said Connecticut in like the 40s and came over and was a lady shooting photos and writing columns in a newspaper or an article somewhere. And she had a column about the losers, not the winners column, but she had a column about the people that had all the tragedies and all the hardships and what everybody went through. 100%. And I never would have known this lady if it wasn't for you going out and following up with some of these Hall of Fame people that are inducted. And now somebody in a younger generation like myself has an understanding of some of these people that are in the Hall of Fame and what they've done. I think it's a really cool thing that you're doing.
It's intriguing for me because I've known all of these names for years, having been involved with the competitions and just being involved with the off-road industry, and some even before that. I mean, I used to watch drag racing all the time, and there's Larry Minor and others, and it's great to be able to finally meet some of these people that I looked up to as heroes in the sport, and now get a chance to become their friend by the interview process.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We've been, doing this podcast for 4.5 years, and Jimmy and I regularly will sit down and be like, what's our goal for this podcast? Because we're not really monetizing it. It's making enough money to pay for itself, but we're not retiring on it or anything. We're just like, why do we do this? And we keep coming back to the networking and the people we get to meet because of the podcast. And that's super enjoyable and valuable to us, getting to meet all these really cool people in the industry and creating these really cool friendships with people in the industry, like yourself, like a bunch of the other people we've interviewed. I was looking through your list here on your episodes. I'm like, God, you have Kevin Carey on here, Steve Sasaki, you have Harry Wagner, Greg Mulkey. There's all these really cool names that we've also gotten a chance to meet and be around and kind of become friends with. I'm like, I think that's really what has kind of become special about the podcast for Jimmy and I. So it's cool to kind of hear that echoed elsewhere.
Absolutely. The other thing is with the magazine, I'm able to do the same thing with people that I never would have had a chance to meet. There's a group of guys that's the Adventure Wheelers East, AWE, that I went on a trail ride with these guys as a magazine article. These are guys that had been on like Ultimate Adventure as guides or guests invited along. They put their applications in and were picked by the group to be part of the magazine run. And so I went and wheeled with these guys, and over the 4 or 5 days that we were together wheeling, it was great. I mean, it was guys that I never would have had a chance to meet otherwise. It's now friendships that, hey, come on back here. We're going to do the run next year here, and we'd like you to come back out again. And it's not just because they'll get a chance to be in the magazine. It's because we've built a friendship. And doing that is really important. And I encourage everybody to get out there and step out of their bubble and figure out how to get more involved with the industry, whether it's just through trail rides or through groups like Blue Ribbon or Tread Lightly or the Friends of the Oceana Dunes, any organization out there, the Cal 4-Wheel Drive, United 4-Wheel Drive, Utah 4-Wheel Drive Association, all the different groups become involved in the local scene and then try to step out of even the local scene and get more involved with the regional or national. And there's so much great, not only great people, but great places to wheel and parks and just iconic locations like the Rubicon or Fordyce or what we have. We've got some iconic trails here in California. There's Nevada. There's all the Western states have iconic trail systems that most people don't realize. We try to put them into our magazine with our resource guide. Here's areas to go wheel. Here's businesses in that area. Here's clubs that are in that area. Get out of your neighborhood and explore. Use those public lands, use the parks. It's the only way those parks will survive, where there is no public lands eventually. I hate to say it, but in 20 or 30 years, there may not be any access to public lands anymore unless you're on your own 2 feet. And so then the people that have the large pieces of property here in the West, we're going to have to convince those people to allow us to wheel on that property.
Yeah, maybe West Coasters then will need to learn something about how the East Coast works out.
Correct.
Yeah. Why don't you give a little shout out to the magazine that you're referencing here? You keep saying the magazine, but you haven't actually said which magazine you're referring to.
It's Forlow Magazine. It's a labor of love, just like everything we do. Shelley and I purchased the magazine with issue 17. Was our first combined issue with the past owner. We now have done like 54 or 55 issues bi-monthly. And it's an off-road enthusiast magazine. And I wouldn't call it the hardcore magazine. Crawl Magazine is out there for the hardcore builds. We will cover the hardcore builds, but that's not where our primary thing is. Our most enthusiasts are out there in their JKs or JLs or CJs or TJs or JTs, or even the XJs like myself. And we enjoy getting out there and wheeling, just like the other enthusiasts. And that's what our magazine is about. It's about the enthusiast and what they're building, what they're going out wheeling in. And we have a section called the Man Cave, which is an off topic. So we've done everything from how to build a still to Technics to ham radios, just anything off topic from 4-wheel drive. And the still one was pretty good. It's how to build. It was actually not talking about alcohol, but a fuel, how to build corn fuel.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Biodiesel.
If you do it the right way, you can drink.
Exactly.
And what episode was that, by the way?
It was one of the early ones.
Eligible to buy.
It is actually, I think. But but it's also available online through Magster. We don't have a full-blown magazine production online. We have articles available online. We have on forlowmagazine.com, but we may go to a digital subscription as well as a print subscription. But I'm old school. I want that. I want that magazine. I want to smell the ink. I want to feel the paper. I won't drop my magazine in the toilet. Okay. That may happen with a phone or a tablet, but it's a magazine that ain't going to happen with. So,
yeah. I did a poll on Snail Trail 4x4's, our group page. And I asked, are you upset that print media is dead? And there was a whole drove of people that came out and said, I'm pissed. I really liked magazines. I liked having the tactical feel, having it in my hand. I liked being able to read about what other people are doing. And there was, droves of people that were complaining about it. So
if those droves want to see the magazines continue, there's 2 out there for the 4-wheel drive enthusiasts. Now, I'm not talking overlanding. They've got all sorts of magazines now because that's the hot topic right now, going out to KOA campgrounds and setting up all your scottles and your rooftop tent and all that kind of stuff. But I just had
I just had a image in my head of a Hot Topic store in a mall setting up with a ton of overlanding gear because of the Hot Topic. Anyways,
exactly.
Continue.
But those people that want to see the print industry, print magazines survive, you got to subscribe. I mean, both Crawl Magazine and ourselves with For Low, it's a dog eat dog world out there. It's hard to convince advertisers that print is not dead, because that's what everybody keeps telling them, especially the digital advertisers, their own employees that are out there that are going, oh, I got this influence over here that has 2 million followers. But how many of those followers are actually buying product that influencer is using? They have a lot of people that get seen by a lot of people, but are they actually buying the product? I know that the people that buy a magazine buy product. If they're willing to spend the money to buy a magazine, to learn to see what other people are doing, they're willing to spend money on your product. And I got to say that the only way the magazines survive is by subscriptions and by those advertisers. And without subscriptions, it's hard to get advertisers. So if you like print magazines, subscribe to Crawl, subscribe to For Low. You're going to spend less than $50 or $60 a year to get our magazine plus Crawl Magazine, 2 different subscriptions, 2 different companies, but they're magazines that are about the 4-wheel drive industry and off-roading. Support. I'm not just saying it for myself. I want to keep the magazine going. Right now, it's a labor of love. It's not a cash cow by any means, to be completely honest. It's paper costs go up, the print costs go up because of ink, all the stuff that everybody else is suffering from, fuel costs and food costs, and everything else plays into that. And so our subscription rate started at $20 a year for 6 magazines and has gone up over the last 4 years or 7, 8 years that we've owned the magazine now. I forget what it is. We're at $24 a year. Can you buy it? Yeah. Can you go to the store and buy it at 7-Eleven? No. You can't do that with very many magazines anymore anyway.
Yeah.
It's so go online to forlow.com, subscribe, and we'll get you issues sent out.
That's pretty cool. I wonder if we could we're going to hit you up. I'm going to text you after this. I have an idea. So
okay. Sounds great. I love ideas.
That's always a dangerous statement coming from me. So
especially crazy ideas.
Especially one that he's not willing to throw on air.
Yet. May have to do a follow-up.
Yeah, right.
I already want to do a follow-up with you, and because I'm halfway tempted to get into the W.E.Rocks competition.
Cool.
And I'm building a crawler right now, and I'm curious about what I need to look at the rule book to see what category or class I would fall into. But it is a slight idea that I've been having with my build. So I think that could be a fun episode just by itself about W.E.Rocks and the competition and how somebody that is an experienced, semi-experienced off-roader, maybe somewhat experienced off-roader, could go start getting into some competitions.
Absolutely. I'd love to do an episode on just that. It's a great sport. It's the only way, like I always tell everybody, the only way you really fail is never to try. So I suggest that everybody that owns a buggy, especially anybody that has ever bought a competition rig, to just go trail ride in. And never tries a competition in a rig it's like going out and buying a dragster and then, driving it around the street. It's just, here, I got this racehorse. We're going to throw a saddle on him and a backpack, and we're going to go trail ride my racehorse that just won the Kentucky Derby. Are you kidding me?
Ozzy, this is all pointed at you, buddy. Oh man, that's funny. That's good stuff, man. I think any of these topics we've talked about today, you have so much stuff that you've been involved in over the past 25, 26 years of off-road events and just being in the off-road industry that we could do a whole episode on every single one of these topics. I think it'd be fun. We're definitely gonna have to look at getting you back on.
Okay.
We didn't even touch on any of your involvements with the Rubicon Trail, because I know that you've spent a lot of time here in NorCal and spent a lot of time on the trail.
Yeah.
We never touched on your son, little Rich. There's so many more topics. I think we could have you back on and dive into some more of these stories here.
I've been doing this thing, you might say, for a long time. My first time wheeling was with a couple of guys, got invited to go up Barrett Lake Trail.
That was your first trail ever?
Very first trail ever.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
That's Tyler's favorite trail.
It was either the fall of 81 or the spring of 82. And I think it was the spring of 82 was my first time.
That was before Tyler was born.
Yeah.
And I was hooked immediately. I mean, I made a lot of friends that day with the Toys on the Rocks Club. Yep. I wasn't driving, so I may have been drinking a little bit. And I made some comments while they had some guys were broken down on the trail and I asked them what the name of their club was again. And the guy I was with goes, "Oh, Rich, don't go there." And of course, me being who I am, I had to go there. And they said, "Oh, we're the Toys on the Rocks Club." And I looked around, I said, "It looks like toys all over the rocks." Parts and all. Because they were changing out transfer cases and everything. But it was pretty funny. So,
yeah, it's pretty incredible how just one trip doing rock crawling, if you have the personality for it, it'll hook you immediately for life. It's pretty interesting how that works out.
Yeah, exactly. And wheeling everything that you can think of. I mean, I took a Dodge D50 long bed through the Rubicon. Well, up to Spider.
Nice.
But I mean, that's through the Rubicon back in the old days. Mm-hmm. But that was quite the only spare part I carried there was extra rear drive lines, because the thing's like 8 foot long.
I know how that goes.
Yeah. Jimmy knows about that. That's cool. Awesome, man. If people wanted to get a hold of you, ask you questions, just say hi and see what's up, how could people do that?
Online, email bigrichklein@gmail.com. My phone number is all over the internet, on the W.E.Rocks page, the For Low page on Facebook, on my personal page on Facebook. So I'll just say it here. 530-417-5333 is my phone number. So you can text me. I prefer texts to begin with than phone calls, because if your number is not in my phone, I rarely answer it. So always text first. I hate spam and these spoofing numbers and shit that they do nowadays drive me nuts. But, you know, any of the pages, For Low, Conversations with Big Rich, W.E.Rock, my personal page, Big Rich Klein, feel free to contact me if you have any questions about anything. I'm here for you.
I will attest to that. I don't remember how I got your number, but somebody gave it to me and they said, I was like, do I just call him? And they're like, no, just text him. He's a very welcoming guy. He loves to talk and loves to meet new people. I was like, okay. And you're absolutely right. You love to chat with people and meet new people. So that's cool, man. Yeah. I would say that your son is very much the same way too. So
acorns don't fall far from the tree.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for sitting down. We're definitely going to catch up with you again here, get you back on the show and dive in a little bit deeper into some of these fun stories that you have from a very full life and career here in the off-road industry. So seriously, thank you for sitting down, taking the time. I know that you're back from Rebel and kind of relaxing. So it was special to get you on today.
Absolutely. And there will be a book of tell-all, but it won't be released until after I die.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well,
I just scared everybody in the industry.
Oh, that's funny. Cool. Jimmy, any final words for everybody out there today?
Oh, I just wanted to say a massive thank you as well, Big Rich, for joining us today. And I look forward to talking to you about W.E.Rocks.
No worries. Anytime.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Rich, any final words for everybody out there today?
Just get out and do it. Join clubs. Join organizations, just be part of the industry, just be part of the scene. Your dreams can come true. And like I said, you don't fail unless you don't try.
Yeah, I love all of that. And with that, my friends, keep crawling.